Hey everyone, it's Kadoran, and today I want to make a matchup spreadsheet for Marth's matchups. As you see, there are all these characters that I will be ranking based on whether or not they think they're even, slight favorite for me, maybe even super favored, and you might be wondering what this is. I'll get to that soon. But for the most part, um, I'll be starting with Mark versus Fox and Mark versus Falco in this segment. And you might be wondering, I'll be getting to Mark versus Fox, Mark versus Falco, and you might be wondering how am I calculating this? Like, what makes this a matchup slight favored, even 6-4 or whatever? How am I going to calculate that? Well, I have this thing called I need data where it will calculate what I think is what it will calculate based on what I think of each stage, how much I think Marth wins. So, like, if I think Marth wins that battlefield 70% of the time, that's going to make me win 6-4 in a matchup in a best of 5. But notice how it doesn't do anything for a best of 3. I think that those are, interesting footnotes to note of. And I'm going to also judge a matchup by 2 metrics. One is if we're both theoretically playing quite solid, me and my opponent are hitting all of our execution, we're hitting our ideas, stuff like that. That's one thing. That's what I'm primarily going to base this matchup chart based off of, is if we're theoretically both playing good. But I also want to bring up that Melee is not often as clean as we make it out to be. Both of our opponents, both you and your opponent, will probably make mistakes. And obviously, if one is playing good and one is playing bad, generally the player playing good will probably beat them despite whatever the matchup is. But also, the matchup changes if both players are playing pretty bad. So I'm going to reflect this based on the conditions where we're both playing bad, and we'll see what I think of each matchup based on the stage list. I'm going to assume that for the most part, Stadium is frozen, and we'll get started. Melee is not always, as we saw in Summit, there's going to be spaghetti all over the place. And whether we like it or not, playing your B game is going to be a factor across every matchup. So the first matchup I want to get across is Mark versus Fox. So to kind of highlight the matchup a little, before I get to the specific stage, Fox, his strengths are that he has potential for up air strings. Even though Mark could SCI it, Fox can follow it, Fox can mix it his up air timings. He has great burst rush down potential. He also has the strongest ledge dash in the game, so that makes it so it's not, you can't just ledge trap him, you have to respect him at the corner. When he's cornered, he could just go back to the ledge and get an advantage, so that's a pretty strong, pretty good trait to have. He has really good angles of attack, really nimble angles of his full hop and his fast ground game. And overall, he has solid juggles and edge guards, given that you just need to read once to get his Shine Spike and Marth's dead. His full up air is pretty good for juggling at past knockdown percent. That's pretty good. There's a lot going for Fox, but I also think there's a lot going for Marth here too. He has a decent dead touch, one touch. If I get a grab, I get a knockdown off of a tech chase. I can make that guaranteed in certain conditions. I can lay up air in platforms, providing that they don't know the conditions to slide off for that. Really strong edge guards and combos, potential 0 to deaths. A lot of times people oversimplify that Marth just gets like an auto death combo for Fox. That's not necessarily true. I'd say, but usually Marth has to make like 2-ish reads to like really push the Fox off stage and get the right edge guard, or maybe get the right setup to land with a tipper. But that is not to de-emphasize that overall Marth does have really strong tools to kill Fox, even at 0. And that is something that really works in Marth's favor. Overall, he also has very strong walling tools, despite Fox being nimble and fast. He does tend to have, he can't just run in brainlessly because Marth has really strong zoning tools. He has a sword. He could keep him out sometimes. So Marth's neutral is also very strong against Fox as well. So what do I think of each stage when they're both playing well? Here's what I think. Probably around this. Probably around here. Probably around here. Probably around here. And this, assuming that this is frozen. If this is not frozen, I probably peg it down to here. Like ish. But that's assuming that it's not frozen. So, what are my rationale for each of these percentage numbers? The reason why I put Battlefield as slight Marth favored is because the edge guarding, even though the top platform generally doesn't do Marth much favors in terms of combos, I do think because of edge guarding, which is one of the main ways Marth is killing Fox, is no wall to ride off of, no angle mix-ups, just counter and he's dead. That makes it much more straightforward to kill Fox when I throw him off stage or combo him off stage, and I think that's a pretty decent edge. Still, Fox is using these platforms to break a lot of combos, so the death touch angle in Marth's end, like it kind of gets a little neutered, but overall, I do think it's slight Marth favored, but I don't think Fox is hopeless here. As for FD, we have the recent ways where apparently Fox beats Marth on FD, but I still disagree with that assessment. The reason being is that even though Fox has stuff here, his ground game is strong enough to contend with Marth's ground game. He could still rush down, he could still with punish, he could still take space, that sort of thing. No, it's not free for Marth. Even if Fox is not getting his upper strings through, just chances, like, I could just guess the right STI and still get out Fox's up air strings, his juggle game is still quite strong, in my opinion. Like, he could fake with, like, full hop, and I'm gonna maybe preempt his swing with dare or fair once my side B and double jump is burned. So, like, he has strong juggle potential there, and still his edge guards are decent. But at the end of the day, the 2 to 3, like the couple of reads Marth has to do in other stages, it's actually a lot more simplified in FD, providing that I'm able to hit all my chain grabs. I only need at most like 1 to 2 reads to, like, if they're SDIing up the up air, then I start going for weak up airs. And I read certain DI patterns, maybe read an edge guard, but the amount of reads I need to make on FD is less, and therefore that makes the stage super, super strong anytime I win a neutral interaction. And since there's no platforms to really get in the way, that's only good for me. No platforms to combo break, no nothing to worry about other angles of attack. It's still very, very strong for how much more simplified Marth's punish game is on the FD. Yoshi's, why do I put that as almost as bad as FD? Not quite as bad as FD. His punish game could be a little bit more simplified in Yoshi's in a sense because the platforms are so low and the top platforms isn't as much of a detriment to combos. You could sometimes just insta kill Fox with a tipper. But because the stage is so small, it is playing to Fox's burst potential, his strong ground game, and hell, even his full up game in Yoshi's, where like the platforms are making it like so many angles to attack with the small platforms, and even the top platform can threaten. It's not doing me any favors, and the fact that the stage is so small makes it so then like I don't have as much room to dash dance. I can only swing so much before Fox starts to whiff punish, so it tends to make Marth's neutral a little bit more predictable. The walls in the stage makes it so that Fox has a stronger recovery, so I need to make more reads in that regard. And if Fox ever gets an up air read, I'm pretty dead. Either if I die off the top, or I get edge guarded. because the ceiling is pretty small. So like even from 0, if Fox gets 3 up throw up airs, like 1 up throw up air at 0 and then gets 2 more up airs, I'm probably dead, honestly. And even if I were to DI out so I could give myself another chance, I could just still get edge guarded. And it's a pretty struggle stage. It is sometimes the smaller percent windows to kill Fox through tippers on the side platform can be nice, but I don't think it justifies so much more that Fox gains in Yoshi's. Dreamland, I do think Marth slightly loses there, but not as much as Yoshi's, because Marth does gain a lot of stage. So the weakness of Yoshi's being a small stage, so I'm swinging more. That's not exactly the case. Like my neutral is still quite solid in Dreamland. However, I need to make more reads killing my opponent. Again, there's a wall to ride, so I need to make more reads and edge guards. And killing Fox off of combos is not present in Dreamland, where the side platforms generally aren't doing any favors in extending my combos, let alone the top platform, where often it can be impossible. The reason why I do think it's better than Yoshi's, though, overall, is because I'm given more chances myself. I'm given more chances in neutral, and okay, so Marth's edge guards are still really strong, and there's a lot of times where Fox, the high blast zone often does not benefit Fox. Like, you know, I appreciate the extra survivability as well, and the fact that I'm just given more room to, you know, even if I have to outplay them a little bit more, I think it's quite worth it. Like I think the trade-offs is more worth it compared to Yoshi's, and just the more room that I'm given makes this a little bit more comfortable of a stage than Yoshi's if both sides are playing well. Martharitis does suck in this stage, but what you gonna do? I mean, that's why they counterpick there. Fountain. Why do I put this as even? I don't mind Fountain, but I could see some drawbacks playing in this stage as both sides. For instance, there's this one very constant variable, and that is the top platform. And generally speaking, I don't think the top platform really does Marth favors, because it's like the Yoshi Story top platform where Fox can threaten off of the top platform and has nimble angles of attack off of it. Sometimes I could get good follow-ups off of the top platform since I could just shore up there, but it only has combo potential, sort of. Doesn't really give me that strong of a follow-up. Whereas for Fox, it just gives him another angle of attack, and I think that's quite useful. And more often it's going to combo break rather than combo extend. And as for the side platforms, it could sometimes help me. Like, the side platforms are found is often better than Yoshi's side platform for combo extensions. Like, you know, Nair covers the entire stage, or Nair covers the entire side platform. It's going to sometimes make Fox going in a little uncomfortable, but also the other way around, where Fox can get another angle of attack on the side platform, where if it's like at a weird height, he can shore up drill off of that I normally would not expect. And that makes it so that I have to swing in a small stage, and that gives Fox a greater chance to whiff punish. The wall on the side is not doing me any favors in terms of edge guarding. There is a possibility that Fountain is like a mini FD, so that does me favors. There's a lot of variance in this stage that can make this feel like this or like this. So that's why I relatively even this out at around 50. Stadium. Again, if this was transformations, I would put it like only very slightly Marth favored, because momentum is a thing in transformations, and transformations pretty much only benefit Fox here. But so there's no transformations to worry about as of now. It's basically FD, but with 2 side platforms, and the 2 side platforms can help with combo extensions. Sometimes it doesn't, but more often than not, I find that it helps with my combo extensions. It does sometimes extend the kills earlier for Fox. If he managed to get an up throw up air on a side platform or something, he could extend it with his juggles. overall, like it's basically FD, but this two side platforms does make it a little better for Fox. Again, it can sometimes let him kill a little earlier. It gives him another angle of attack, but overall, it's pretty Marth favored. Oh yeah, and the edge guards are a little easier, so because he has no wall to white off of, so that's a pretty decent bonus as well. So overall, I think this matchup is slightly Marth favored. You know, I think this is like for whatever it's worth, I do not think this is unwinnable for Fox. Especially if they're both playing well. Like I think that's very slightly Marth favored, like around that range. Like, you know, you could like adjust these numbers a little bit if you want. Maybe it's not that big, whatever. But either way, like I think it's doable for Fox, given that he has the tools necessary to edge guard, to juggle, to really get in Marth's disadvantage states. I think it's quite winnable. However, what if both players are playing bad? When they're both playing bad, obviously Fox is not as confident in his typical execution strings. He's not going to ledge dash as often. Maybe his up throw up air is not really on point, and I'm SDing out of it all the time. He might be side being off stage instead of running shine, and like more importantly, he's getting reversaled. No, that's not to say that Marth doesn't lose anything either. Marth is less consistent with his punish strings. He needs to make more reads instead of like 2 reads. Maybe he has to read 5 times per stock. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's being a little bit more swingy, making it more predictable, and not going out there for edge guards and combos. But here's the thing: when they're both playing bad, Marth gets reversals more often, and a reversal string is not just one stock, because often before a reversal, let's say a Fox is supposed to secure an edge guard, and that was supposed to be a stock, but say Marth up Bs in a way that Fox didn't expect, the Fox dies. Now it's Marth stock. Now he's up 4-3. That's actually more of a 2-stock swing instead of a 1-stock swing, because the Fox was supposed to be up 4 stocks to 3, but now the Marth is up 4 stocks to 3. And that's more of a 2-stock swing rather than 1. So reversals hurt a lot. And reversals are big when both players are playing not to their best. They're playing their plan B game. And when reversals happen, oof. You see often that if both players are not playing well, and one is getting reversaled for their stocks, the person getting reversaled more often is going to win. And I find that if both players are playing equally bad, Marth is more prone to finding reversals more often than Fox, and that changes certain things. And let me flip certain things. Let's see how each stage would change based on potential reversals if both players are playing bad. So I think it's a little bit more favored. This becomes a little bit more favored. This is very favored. This becomes a little worse. This becomes favored. And this becomes more favored. Yeah, this is more like it. Where if both players are playing bad, like the edge guards in his battlefield is more free. Again, across all of these stages, Fox just might kill himself. FD, even though if I'm not getting true chain grabs, like I could still do up tilt strings and put myself in an advantage, and Fox is gonna be like, I'm just gonna die. Same in Yoshi's. It doesn't matter how much angles of attack Fox has if he's playing bad and he's not executing well, and I'm just gonna swipe at him and get those early kills on the side platform. That's only an advantage for me. Same reasoning for Fountain, but it's a little bit more RNG, so it's going to also sometimes help Fox, but not as much. Dreamland I put in as the exception because even if I am getting good reads, at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to be killing as often. Since my execution's off too, I'm probably going to be suffering Marthritis a lot, and that's going to help Fox more than it's going to help me. So Dreamland is the exception, where it probably gets worse for Marth because I'm probably going to be dealing with Marthritis more often. since my execution is not good enough as well. But it's not any worse because the reversals are still pretty big. And for Stadium, it's just FD. Maybe it might honestly be better. Who knows? I mean, I don't. The point is that like it becomes pretty bad. Like if both players are playing bad, this becomes super favored for Marth. But honestly, if they're both playing well, I think it's very doable for Fox.